Let's see how these play out by means of a quick review of Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. So all we're going to do here, Linda is going to go from the beginning of the track for the first movement to the second movement and so on. And well, let's just start here. Let's just, by way of refreshing our memory, the beginning of Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. Pause it there, and as we said last time, it operates in that fashion. And that beginning gives us a good opportunity to make a distinction between two types of melody, between this idea of a motive and a theme. Both are sort of subsets of melody, if you will. As I say in the textbook there, the beginning of the Beethoven Fifth is something like a musical punch in the nose, right? Ba-da-da-dum, sort of grabbing you here, hitting you in the face, whatever, musically. It's not a very long idea. How many notes is in this opening gambit here? How many pitches? 4. Ba-ba-ba-ba, short, 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 long. Okay, so that's a classic example of a motive. A motive is just a little cell, a germ, out of which the composer will build other musical material. Now let's contrast that with what happens in the second movement of Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, where we have a lyrical, long-flowing theme, okay? Okay, we'll stop there. All right? So that went on, if we heard the whole thing, it actually goes on for 32 notes as opposed to just 4. So motive versus longer theme. Themes tend maybe a little bit more lyrical. Now, let's go on to the third movement. We said the third movement was dance-derived, but in this case with Beethoven, it's a very strange dance, if it is dance-derived. It's just a little bit different than most of these third movements, but let's listen to it anyway, because I'd like you to, when the brasses come in, think about what you're hearing and think about that vis-a-vis the first movement. So let's hear the third movement now. So what happened there when the brasses came in? How did that relate to the first movement? Yes? 4 notes, something as simple as that. Da da dee 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 dee, same rhythmic idea. So that's the use of a motive there, and that's how these movements are tied together a little bit. Let's go on to the finale now. And as we listen to the finale, let's think about what we heard at the very beginning and talked about last time, about the mood that the beginning of the Fifth Symphony created for it. We had these adjectives up here: negative, anxious, unsettled. Well, how do we feel now about the finale, and why? You can just turn the volume down a little bit as we go down. So why do we feel differently about that? I think we do. What do we feel there? Well, sort of upbeat, positive. What's turned all of this around? What specifically? Well, with the first movement, we said he's generally going in that kind of idea, but now it's, and we'll explore this when we get to harmony, this idea of major and minor. So we're going, but now, so that's a change from the dark minor to the brighter major. We were going down in the first movement, now we're going, it's going up. And instead of having just the violins playing, we have the trumpets, the heroic trumpets. So it sounds very triumphant, very triumphant. So in this 40-minute interval, we've gone sort of through an emotional musical journey here, from despair, despondency, uncertainty to whatever, to personal triumph. And in a way, that mirrors some of the things that were going on in Beethoven's life. Okay, let's go on to talk about the second piece. We're finished with this idea of the genre of the four-movement symphony. Let's go on to talk about the piano concerto. Concertos are generally in 3 movements, so the concerto is another genre. It's a genre in which a soloist will confront the orchestra, and there'll be a kind of give and take, a spirited give and take between the two. So now we are going to listen to the beginning of the first movement of Tchaikovsky's piano concerto. You've worked with this already, so you're a little bit familiar with it. And at the outset here, I have 2 questions for you. Is the beginning here played by the brasses or the strings? In other words, or the woodwinds, what family of instruments is playing here? And is Tchaikovsky using a motive, or is he using a theme at the very beginning of this concerto? Up a little bit, Linda, just up a little bit. No, turn it up a little bit. So let's do that again, please. Let's do that again so we can hear the beginning. So what about that? Theme or motive at the beginning? Motive, all right? So here it was, I think. How many notes in our motive? Same as in the Beethoven. Well, why isn't it the same? Well, we got a skippy Beethoven. But here with Tchaikovsky, he's coming down, just straight down. Down consecutive intervals there for the most part. And both of them are, however, minor. With the Tchaikovsky, all the intervals of the durations are the same. Dee ba ba bum, be ba ba ba. But with the Beethoven, dee 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 dee, short, 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 long. So Tchaikovsky's a little bit more neutral in terms of the rhythm. Okay, so then we go on, and the piano enters. What is the piano doing? So let's hear the piano come in just a bit. Just play a bit more, please. Okay, let's stop here. So what's the piano up to? Well, the piano is just playing chords. Playing them in octave successions, and we'll talk about that a little bit more too. So what do we have here in this next section? Do we have a theme or do we have a motive? And which are the violins playing? Do they have the theme or the motive? Or does the piano have the theme or the motive? Let's listen. Okay, so let's stop it there. So what were the violins playing? Theme or motive? Theme. What was the piano doing? Yeah, just the same chords. Ya dee dee ya ba 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 da 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 ba dee da da. Ba, 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 in that fashion. I'm singing the melody, they're playing a chordal accompaniment against it. All right, let's listen to the next iteration of this theme. We've identified this as a theme. Who's got the theme now? Is it exactly the same? And what are the strings up to in terms of string technique here? So, who had the theme? Piano now. But was it exactly the same? Not really. It's kind of noodling around with it, varying it a little bit. What were the strings doing? They were playing the accompaniment. And what string technique were they using? I think we mentioned that in the first chapter of the book there. Yeah, you've got it. Nice and loud, please. Pizzicato. Good. Okay, pizzicato. We could write that. Did we write that as a term? Yeah, okay, we've got it up there. Pizzicato. That's a help. In that particular case, we've switched the roles around. Let's go ahead to 210. We're going to move this along just a little bit here. As we come back into this, I think we've got a situation where the piano keeps playing the four-note motive and keeps building it up for tension, and there's a cascade, and then the theme comes back. Let's see what happens here. Just the motive. 1, 2, 3, 4. 3, 4. 1, 2. And then the piano is playing. But ornamented. Phase that down. All right, so that's an introduction to a three-movement piano concerto. It happens to be the first of these three movements, and it's pretty spectacular music. I hope you like that music. It's one of the great melodies of all time. It's a wonderful example of a theme. Having talked just a little bit about genres, we could conclude by saying there are other kinds of genres in music, of course. We've been introduced to this idea of the tone poem. The Strauss Zarathustra is a tone poem. That's a kind of one-movement work in which the composer tries to tell a story or play out an historic event. Or in the case of the Strauss, I guess, to give us the beginning of the contents of a philosophical novel through music. So tone poems are one movement. And we have got other kinds of genres of music. We've got opera, we've got cantatas, sonatas, ballets, things such as this, and we'll get to each of those in turn.